In Spain's Sierra Nevada, mineral water is an important natural resource. So much so, they've attracted several multinationals eager to make a profit. But locals say climate change is already robbing them of groundwater and the companies are just making matters worse.
The new bottling facility at its main plant in Albacete is the pride and joy of Aquadea's CEO. The high-tech conveyor can fill 45,000 bottles an hour with mineral water. That's a national record. In Spain, we're the 9th biggest producer. And our strategy is to keep developing the Aquadea's brand and expand internationally as well.
And
that's exactly what environmental activists in Andalusia don't want. At the foot of the Sierra Nevada, the company built a second factory, sparking anger amongst local residents. They say the water is needed locally and shouldn't be exported to China.
We have a water deficit of 1.4 million cubic meters a year in this region, and they want to build a factory which uses up 1 million cubic meters a year. How can they be allowed to exploit the groundwater here in this region where there isn't enough?
The snow-capped peaks of the Sierra Nevada are home to some of the best mineral water sources in Spain. That's attracted several multinational companies. But climate change threatens the region's water supplies. It's already getting drier, and climate change is just making that worse. We're already seeing less overall rainfall, and instead we get sporadic downpours that are lost because the soil can't absorb them. Aquadeus doesn't want to hear about that. The company even plans to expand a second plant. By the end of the year, 8-litre jugs are slated to be rolling off the new facility there. No one knows what effect that might have on the environment, because so far the company hasn't had to provide any studies on the issue.
Marina Andrijevic is a guest researcher at Climate Analytics and joins us now. Thank you very much for joining us today. So what are the expected economic consequences of climate change?
Well, there are many. There are many biophysical impacts of climate change. There are many economic sectors in many ways in which they interact, as we just saw in the report from Spain. Drought is one of the most complex ones, and one with cascading effects on communities, as we just saw. And Spain, in fact, is one of the most vulnerable European countries. So currently we have about 9 billion euros annual damage from droughts in Europe, and Spain takes about 1.5 billion of this. And this is at 1.2 degrees higher global warming compared to the pre-industrial period. And with climate change, this will get much worse.
OK, so not a bright future ahead. But will this stark message increase the pressure on companies and politicians to take action?
Well, I certainly hope so. And I think we can say that governments at least can, and companies as well. If we can draw any lessons from the current COVID crisis, it's that when governments take a crisis seriously, they also address it seriously. So this way, we put about 10% of the global GDP towards economic recovery from COVID. And this could also get us a long way in the fight against climate change.
So you're saying that we can learn a lot from the COVID crisis. What specifically should we be taking with us on the journey to fight against climate change?
So we probably saw that decisive leadership and listening to scientific evidence is a good strategy towards resilience.
OK, and do you see that it's just the industrialised countries that have to take on the majority of this responsibility, or are others having to pitch in as well?
Industrialized countries are the biggest historical emitters, and therefore they have the biggest responsibility to lead the fight against climate change. But everyone has to do their fair share, and this includes developed and developing countries. But they need help, so countries need to work there together. And developed countries have promised to support developing and vulnerable countries with $100 billion annually until 2020, and we're far away from that amount, unfortunately.
So there's plenty of work still to do. Marina Andrijevic from Climate Analytics, thank you very much for talking to us on that.
Thanks for having me.